Today we are delighted to welcome Kate MacRae. I think you call yourself Wildlife Kate, isn't that right?
That is, yes. I'm more known as Wildlife Kate now than my real name, I think.
We just called you Wildlife, is that it? And where are you talking from today?
So I'm talking from my home in South Wales.
Okay, which I have seen on your website has some really delightful webcams of. I was watching a great spotted woodpecker earlier on, I think.
Yes, yes. I only moved here in September 23. So I haven't been here 2 years yet. Really living out my dream, to be honest, what I've wanted to do for the last 20 years. So I moved here and bought a lovely house and a 3 acre plot, which I'm basically turning into a wildlife home.
Fantastic, which is at the core of your being, so far as I can tell. So give us a bit of backstory about what Wildlife Kate's all about.
I grew up in Southeast London, so I'm not, sort of someone who grew up surrounded particularly by an enormous amount of nature. But from a very young age, I was really, really interested in wildlife, particularly birds. And I lived in sort of Southeast London suburbs, and we always had a garden. And my father, in particular, was really keen on birds, so we always had a bird table. And for as long as I can remember, I've had a bird table and bird feeders. And that's really what kickstarted my interest and is still a major love of mine. And then I've sort of kept that up all my life. I trained as a teacher, spent 30 years working in the primary sector, very much in the environmental side, helping schools develop their school grounds and working with children and teachers really to get them out and about. But I've always run my love of nature and photography alongside all of that. And about, I don't know now, 15 years ago, sort of started my Wildlife Cape business really as a way of documenting for me what I was doing and the wildlife I was seeing. And it just grew from there.
Okay, fantastic. So give us a few highlights, career highlights. I mean, you said where you are, you've only been there a couple of years. Obviously,
Yeah.
that you've created this persona over a much longer period of time than that. What are some of the highlights of that journey?
Highlights. It's been such an amazing journey, but it's not one I had any major plan for, really. I've always been so enthusiastic and so passionate about nature and about connecting people with what's right outside their doorstep. So I had a lovely, relatively small garden in Lichfield, in the Midlands, where I sort of really started all my Wildlife Cape business and showcasing how much is right outside and how easy it is actually when you stop and look to start connecting. And then, of course, the benefits of that for both our mental health
Mhm.
and also our physical being outside. And in terms of highlights, it's really hard, because I get as much pleasure filming a blue tip nest box, which I've done for the last decade probably, as some of the more unusual species. But obviously, technology has moved on, and I'm a real gadget. I love gadgets, and I love showing people how they can use technology to help them connect, whether that be filming with their phone or accessing some of the really cool kit that's available now, from trail cams to all sorts of cameras now that you can plug into your Wi-Fi, connect to your phone, and suddenly you're accessing possibly a view on nature that you weren't able to do before. Probably real highlight in terms of filming was when I set up a badger set at another site I work at. Well, I did that about 8 years ago. But a couple of years ago, a badger actually gave birth in that set, and I filmed the whole thing. And as far as we know, I'm the only person to have filmed a wild badger give birth, which is pretty mind blowing. That has been a major highlight of my career. But also, the more cameras you have around a site, even if it's just in your back garden, the more things you see that, yeah, maybe not have been filmed very often, or if not at all. Things like I had amazing camera on a kingfisher post and then filmed a sparrowhawk land on it with a bat, which it caught, which it then proceeded to eat right in front of my camera. And then you get unexpected, you set a trail cam up, maybe I'd set one up here in Wales on a rabbit hole just because I was interested to see how much activity there was. And then I filmed a polecat checking it out. So these cameras give you such an amazing insight. And like I said, technology's moving on and prices are coming down. So it's accessible to most people now.
Yeah. I know a lot of people are interested in this nowadays. So let's go down that technological, I was going to say rabbit hole. We have to call it a badger set, won't we, instead? How did you get camera, lighting, and everything into a badger set in such a way they were so comfortable they could just give birth in front of it?
Well, a lot of research, lots of talking to other people who'd built artificial sets, and then building a bespoke setup, basically.
Mm.
So I worked with another guy, Jason, who runs another company doing wildlife camera based work, and together we built a set, not overly complicated, to be honest, out of sleepers and big drainage pipes that were big enough for them to get in. But then I designed a system for a camera to be dropped down inside to the set. So I had like a chimney pole, a post, and it was like just a pipe. And then I devised a method of fitting the camera underneath and being able to lower it down the pipe so it just clipped into the ceiling and was just visible like a dome camera.
Mhm.
And varieties of cameras. In fact, I've had 3 different cameras in there now. But it meant I could easily take the cameras out. Obviously, I wouldn't take them out if the badger was in there. But I was able to look on the cameras, basically wired back to a central computer, so I can check on the monitor. If the badger's not in there, I can pull the camera out, because having a camera in a badger set, one, it's dark, it's murky, it's quite damp often. And also, the first thing a badger does when it comes into the chamber is shake, which invariably covers your lens with mud.
Mm.
So you have to sort of understand the creature's habits. You have to understand the space you're working in, and you have to try and devise a system that's future proof. I knew technology would move on. I knew I was going to have access to better cameras in the future. So I devised a system that I could basically move that camera in and out. And yeah, but it did take 7 years for a badger to give birth. So wildlife photography and filmmaking is not a quick fix. Sometimes you're lucky, but often it's creating a space and then being patient. But we filmed all sorts of things in there before that birth, and badgers did use it as a satellite set. And various other creatures. We had a vixen sleep in there one day. We've had polecat, weasels, next door's cat, lots of rats, mice, foals, even a newt. So we filmed all sorts of things, and it's still up and running, but they haven't been back since then.
So is the camera super sensitive to low light, or you have to do something with lighting?
No, the camera I'm actually using has its own infrared LEDs,
Yeah.
and infrared now is way better than it used to be, even 5-6 years ago. In a very small space, you'd often get quite a lot of burnout from the infrared LEDs within a built-in camera. But now it's much more intelligent, and it sort of can sense how much light is hitting the sensor and adjust the infrared. And plus, I can log into the camera now and make adjustments. So it's way easier than it was a long time ago. And the cameras are so much more sophisticated now, and there's so much more functionality and the ability for me to log on and change those settings so that I can sort of bespoke adjust things for that specific location, that specific setup.
I noticed on your webcams, if that's not an outdated term now, that the definition was really good, and so talk us through from camera next to an actively feeding woodpecker, as I saw this morning,
Yeah.
through to the image on screen without losing definition. How does it all work?
Okay, so whereas I've said there's a lot of technology available to, everyday folk now to sort of connect to the wildlife right on their doorstep, I'm using possibly a little more of a sophisticated setup because obviously I've taken it that little bit further. So within my site, I have a range of CCTV standard HD cameras. But in order for those to work, I have to run cables. So I have networks of cables and hubs around my site. So in various areas where I felt that the wildlife was likely to be good, I install a network switch, which is cabled back to my computer. And from that network switch, I can then wire a range of PoE or power over Ethernet CCTV type cameras. And then they're all wired back to a central hub. And then I can pick up all those cameras on my screen. So it's a bit like Springwatch where you see all the monitors all up. That's exactly what I've got here. So when I'm working at my desk, I can basically see all areas of my garden, which means in 2 years, I've got a very good understanding of what's there. And then all of those cameras record 24/7. So at any point, I can go back and play back through the footage and lift relevant bits off that I share. And like you said, I also live stream a range of cameras all over my site, and they're always changing. So feeders are pretty much stable all year round. So I have feeders live streaming all over the garden, and I'm presently creating a whole new set for autumn and winter. I have a small mammal box where I get mice and shrews and voles visiting. And that's a really nice one because it goes on 24/7. You'll see stuff during the day and all night. And there's a new mammal box coming for the autumn winter as well, which I'm working on. And then through the nesting season, I have all sorts of nest boxes from standard kit boxes to I've got a couple of owl boxes and all sorts going, both here and at another site I work at. So there's a really wide range, and it's constantly evolving, and I'm constantly, as I get to learn and learn more about my site, I've got more ideas for different setups and different things I can bring to share, really.
Yeah, and I think it turns the randomness of blue tits and blackbirds, that, the things that lots of people have in their gardens and maybe just take for granted. It turns it into a continual, as you say, 24/7 theater of wildlife, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's all about education for me as
Yeah.
well, about enthusing people and realizing that we can all make a difference. And certainly in our own spaces, we can do things to improve our own spaces. And our gardens represent a massive area, bigger than all the nature reserves. If we all combined and did our little bit,
Mhm.
and I've tried this year, since I've moved here as well, to try and document some of my projects. I come up with the ideas. And yeah, I've got a 3-acre plot now, which is much bigger than most people's gardens, obviously. But I like to think, and I'd certainly like to try to show that even in a very small space, you can actually do some really cool projects for wildlife that help you connect and help you learn more about what's right out there, from planting to habitat creation to cool projects, and that your garden can look pretty darn amazing and still be really good for wildlife, which is
Well, that's inspiring and educating people, I think, is an absolute passion, and it's a wonderful thing to be able to do. So, on which note, what are you going to be talking about and sharing at this year's bird fair?
well, exactly that.
What a
So,
coincidence!
so yes, I'll be basically sharing all sorts of footage I've collected over the years, but particularly the last 2 years. So showing my new site, how I've gone about planning what I'm going to do with it, and showcasing all, not only my footage, so some of the amazing things I've captured, but also giving a bit of a behind the scenes look
Yep.
at some of the kit I'm using, from the more sophisticated stuff to some of the really cool stuff that's available, to the general public as well. And I'll be bringing various bits of kits with me to sort of show on the talk. but also I'll be back on the Leica stand after my talk so people can come and ask me questions and see some of the kit I've got with me.
That's fantastic. I mean, I think one of the big attractions of an event like the Bird Fair is that people can come and find out the latest gadgets and gizmos of whatever turns them on. And I'm sure you'll have a great following there. That'll be amazing.
I'm really keen on inspiring the next generation of naturalists, and some of this kit, helps their love of technology, how they can use that love of technology as a wonderful resource to connect with nature. So to me, the fundamental thing is right from an early age, helping people and helping parents show them how to connect themselves and then their children,
Yeah.
the natural world, so that they learn to love it. Because when you love it, you just can't even contemplate losing that.
No, I think it's a wonderful idea to get the youngsters engaged through the technology, because what is it if people of a certain age say, if you want something done technologically, ask a teenager. These days, even ask a 7-year-old.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, Bird Fair is really, really a wonderful place for lots of young
Yeah.
people to meet as well. And that networking, I feel I never had that as a child.
Yeah. Just going through my mind is, if any young people are watching this, I hope there will be, and certainly there will be live when you're speaking. I think the Bird Fair is an amazing gathering of people who've made an entire career out of their love of wildlife.
I just can't believe that, this year I'm up there on the Osprey stage, talking on the Saturday. So I feel very privileged to be at that, be in that position, to be able to share my passion and on that stage, which is just fabulous.
We all absolutely look forward to seeing, hearing, and watching your clips of your amazing films. And yeah, so thanks very much, Kate. It's been wonderful hearing a few of your snippets and reminiscences, and we look forward to hearing an awful lot more at the Bird Fair in July.